Hey, what's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of College Basketball Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, the #1 Knicks fan in the world. And in today's episode, we're going to be handing out our Week 1 awards. First week of college basketball was magnificent, exciting. We had some prospects who came out hooping out of the gate. We had some well-polished teams that look like they're primed for a run in March. We had some multi-year guys improve on their games. It was jam-packed. The atmosphere of college basketball is back. It's at an all-time high. I'm excited. I know y'all excited. And what my goal is for these award videos, whether it's week 1 awards, a month-in awards, middle of the season awards, whatever, I want to obviously talk about potential prospects that will be in the draft. That's always fun to talk about. But most importantly, I want to get you guys familiar with people that you might have never heard of. There's so many teams around the country, so many different players, so many hidden gems. So anytime I get a chance to give flowers to somebody who may not be the most popular guy, or anytime we can talk about a team that isn't ranked or in the biggest conference, but that can be a factor in March Madness, I think is going to be good for us. So hopefully, in this first episode of the awards, I have a player or two that you may not have paid attention to. Maybe you heard once, maybe you've seen them in a game or whatnot. But hopefully after this video, you'll get a little bit more familiar with them and have a look out for them. So without further ado, the first award I want to start with is a less popular award, Coach of the Year. My Coach of the Year after week 1 has to go to Mick Cronin from UCLA. Off to a 3-0 start. Was a part of the best college game we've seen thus far in the season, which was UCLA against Villanova. We got overtime. It was at UCLA, popping, bright, but they bounced back. They had a shaky start to the start of the game. Nothing crazy, but what I mean by shaky is when you have teams like UCLA and Villanova, one of the more important things is the control of the game, the pace, and it felt like a Villanova controlled game in that first half. Now, I believe UCLA went into the half up 2 or 1 or something like that. But if you watch the game, you would know what I mean. At a certain part in that first half, at the end, Villanova came and kind of just took full control. It was a little bit slower. They were going inside, using their offense. Villanova likes that type of brand of basketball, but UCLA, they have shooters and scorers. They want to spread the floor. They want to get out. They want to shoot threes and do all of that. So early in that first half, it definitely felt like, oh shit, Villanova is taking control of the game. Their seniors and upperclassmen aren't getting rattled. They got a deep bench. So for them to come out in the second half, UCLA, and still not take full control of the pace, they had a couple runs here and there. Johnny Juzang, started to get going after a tough first half. But in overtime is when UCLA really took full control of the game, and they kind of shot out a way and pulled that out. And I think it was a testament of them being well coached, a mix of young players and veterans, obviously. But that was a huge statement win for them against a team like Villanova, who does exactly that. Villanova is known to come places into your own building at times, take control of the game, make it a Villanova pace game, and pull out the victory. You know what I mean? So for them to be able to fight through that early adversity, Johnny Juzang didn't have the greatest opening start of the game, but as a team and collective, they made timely shots and had some timely stops against a very good Villanova team. Though UCLA is ranked 2, Villanova is right behind them at 4 before that loss, at least. So that was a very impressive win, and I felt like some of their guys looked better. And Mick Cronin is going to have a tough job because they did add some talent like Peyton Watson, who during times in that Villanova game didn't get a lot of minutes. And you have people on Twitter like, what is he doing? Why is Peyton Watson on the game? But Mick Cronin, that's a job in itself. So for him to be able to find balance like that of who to play, when to play him, and not feel obligated to play certain guys, but ultimately pull out the win is very, very impressive. And for them to be at a 3-0 start, I had to acknowledge Mick Cronin, because UCLA can be a team when it comes March that we can see in the Final Four on another run after the run that they had. And Johnny Juzang is looking even better. We'll get to Johnny Juzang, though. My next award, I'll do Most Improved Player, since it's part of the same game. Justin Moore from Villanova. Though it was only a few games, Justin Moore has looked like a typical Villanova player. And what I mean by that is we have a guy who's been a part of the roster for a couple years. Then all of a sudden, he learns from the past veterans of those teams and he steps up in a veteran presence and is their go-to guy or their prime bucket. That's the recipe for Villanova. They bring a guys, they have them sit behind some veterans for a year or two, and now when those veterans go, these 3-year players make huge jumps, and it looks like Justin Moore is prime for that. He's already having a 7 to 8 point increase on his points per game, now a 20-point scorer, averaging 24 and 4. He's shooting 70% from 3. Obviously, that's just a hot start. That'll come down some. Just a veteran, a veteran. Colin Gillespie on that perimeter. Even has some defensive, some better defense on the perimeter I've seen from him. And I think he could be a guy that potentially could turn into a draft prospect that we didn't see coming. And Villanova has those type of teams. When they're going to make a run, or when it's a year for Villanova, they have veterans, and then they have a guy on the perimeter or the wing who stands out and takes the reins as a go-to guy, or a guy who can make timely baskets. And though Justin Moore didn't have the same game that he did from opening night against UCLA, he made timely buckets and timely three-point shots for them when it mattered the most, and that's what ultimately pushed them to the edge against UCLA, where they obviously took a tough defeat in overtime. But Justin Moore, very, 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 very impressive through 2 games, and I think if he can keep this pace, along with the other veterans and the depth that they have in Villanova, they would also be a team that I wouldn't be surprised making a run comes March. So most improved player goes to Justin Moore, the 3-year guy in Villanova. Continuing on with the awards, 6th man of the year goes to a guy that I haven't or wasn't that familiar with, but I did my research, and Jacob Anasovic from Lipscomb, a guy who was not that far from my area, went to Valparaiso at first, transferred to Lipscomb, and off the bench he is averaging 17 and 6. In their first opening night game off the bench, he had 30 and 7. This is also a guy who, in their most recent game, had 20 points and went 3 from 3 from the 3-point line. This is a forward, a small ball center, power forward type guy. So he's basically a big. And his shooting splits are 54% from the field, 56% from 3, and 96% from the free throw line. This is a guy who's come out of nowhere on my radar, and when I did my homework and did my research, he was extremely good. Come off the bench, shooting a 3 ball. He's not a guy who's shooting crazy amount, but when he shoots them, he makes a fair amount. Very tough and gritty on the boards. Is going to rebound. He had a game where he didn't score much. He might have had like 2 or 3 points, but he had 10 rebounds. So a guy that's coming in and affecting the game in any way, shape, or form he can for Lipscomb, but most importantly, he's scoring the ball at an incredible rate, because it's a guy who, again, doesn't play crazy minutes, comes off the bench, but when he does play, he's effective, and he's a big part of the reason they're off to a 3-1 start. And if they continue that, they could be a team that isn't a household name come March time, but if we get familiar with this guy now and that team, we'll be able to see, okay, Lipscomb, they maybe can upset this team, or if they're a 9th seed or 8th seed, they may could be a team that goes a little further than people know, because they're not a household name. So that's one of the guys that, again, wasn't on my radar. I did my research, was able to see some of the games that he played. One particular game where he got to the free throw line a bunch of times. I think he was like 9 of 10, 10 of 11, shot the ball from the free throw line very, very well, very active, very aggressive, and it caught my eye, and I was like, whoa, And I tried to look him up, and it didn't seem like a lot of people was talking about him. He's a freshman, because, again, he transferred from Valparaiso, so he's still a freshman, and he was truly impressive. And I think this could be potentially a guy, though he's on the bench right now, who can make some noise, and over the next few years, as his college career progresses, could be a guy that we hear about a lot if he stays with Lipscomb. But Jacob Anasovic, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Keep y'all eye on him. Probably one of the top scorers off the bench in the nation as well. But it was hard to figure out for college basketball. Defensive Player of the Year, Colin Castleton from Florida, has been amazing. This is a guy that I was a fan of last year. I think Florida had a really underrated team last year with Trey Mann, Scotty Lewis. Colin Castleton was on that team as well. This year, not the same type of team. Obviously, missing Keontae Johnson from the scare that he had last year, but thus far through 2 games, Colin Castleton has been phenomenal. He's averaging 6 blocks a game. He had an impressive stat line against a ranked Florida State team where Florida was able to not only upset them, but get that win in a cross-town, cross-country rivalry that always gets Florida bubbling. 15 points, 16 rebounds, and 6 blocks against that Florida State team. Was absolutely dominant. And on the interior, I watched that game. Was very impressive with how he played. And I think this dude could creep himself into being a draft pick, whether it's late first round, second round. This dude, to me, could play some NBA basketball. His rim protection and not only just the blocks that we actually see the number and the stat for, but the shots he make adjust. He also averages a steal. He changes a lot of plays. He covers a lot of ground. I think he's going to give Florida a potential chance to also make the tournament in a tough SEC tournament, just because of the anchor that he is for that defense and what he provides for the perimeter defenders. So he's averaging 16, 10, and 6 blocks on a season. He had 6 blocks in 2 different games. He's shooting 60% from the field, and overall he's averaging 16 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 blocks. But he's been a monster in the interior. He's going to be a guy that I'm going to continue to watch probably for the rest of the year, just because when he does it, it's kind of effortless. Like, most guys' numbers are inflated because they have a crazy game and then they come back down to earth. I'm not saying he's going to average 6 blocks throughout the year, but his 6 blocks are real 6 blocks. That's what he's doing right now in each game. And like I said, even without just collecting the actual block stats, he's doing a lot of things as a rim protector that may not show up as an individual stat on your box score. So please pay attention to Colin Castleton. I don't think he's a guy that you guys won't be familiar with. I'm sure you guys know his name, but he may be a guy that you just know the name and kind of not paying too much attention to. No. Anytime you see Florida and have an opportunity to glance at what they're doing or take a look at their game, tune in, because Colin Castleton is not only just going to block shots and rim protect, but he's a monster on the offensive end too. Getting in, getting dunks, putbacks, rebound, getting to the line. I'm a real big fan of his game, and I can't wait to see how far he can take Florida this season. As far as Rookie of the Year, obviously Paolo Banchero from Duke. I know the headlines right now are a bit crazy. We don't know what's going on as far as whatever that whole situation is, but out of the gate, he's been the best freshman or quote-unquote rookie in the nation, in my opinion. Just a straight monster. That opening night game against Kentucky, he dominated, looked like a pro. He's a guy that I believe right now could play NBA minutes. And I do think he is in the conversation for the number 1 pick. And if I had to choose and I had to draft right now, he would be my first overall pick. Just a guy who doesn't really have many holes as a modern forward. Mid-range game is nice. The 3-point shooting could be better, but that's not anything he's living or dying by. Physical, gifted physically. NBA body, can take you on a block, pick and pop, pick and roll, decision making, grab off the board and go. He just does everything very, very well, and I cannot wait to see him and Chet match up in Vegas in the next couple of weeks. Duke versus Gonzaga, and just to see him against ACC competition when it comes to conference time. Just every night playing against the ACC competition, because Duke has had a shaky schedule. Kentucky was, tough competition. Then the next couple of games, it kind of dialed down a little bit. So I can't wait to see him match against other NBA prospects and see how he holds his own like he did against Kentucky. But, he's averaging 19 and 9, 68% from the field. He's getting to the free throw line 6 times a game and is shooting 88% from the free throw line. Like I said, just very, very well polished. And I wouldn't be surprised that when it comes to the summertime and the NBA draft, he's a guy that's getting real consideration to be the first overall pick. And I hope the situation at Duke and with his teammate, which is, Michael Servino, who is Coach K's godson or something, or grandson or something like that. I hope that everything clears up and they're all able to, bounce back and move on from that tough situation. And then last but not least, my MVP of the opening week for college basketball goes to another UCLA guy after Mick Cronin got Coach of the Year. That's Johnny Juzang. Listen, I was a guy who was asked at the beginning of the year that I think Johnny Juzang would be able to replicate what he did in the tournament. I ultimately said no, just because he was so good and so special that it's just so much pressure to ask him to deliver more. You know what I mean? So, but thus far, he's done that. Johnny Juzang is giving them 23 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist a game, 27% from 3. I don't think it'll stay like that. He's off to a rocky start from the 3-point line, but the mid-range game has been butter, and it's opening up everything for the rest of the UCLA's offense, and he gives them timely buckets. In that Villanova game, he got to his spots in the mid-range, and it's like ice. It's just money, money, money. He's going up. That for him, 23 points is a 7-point increase from 16 to 23. Like I said, with a guy who had a Cinderella story, a magical year last year after he transferred from Kentucky, that was an incredible story. But for him to be able to top that thus far is the most impressive thing in college basketball for me in opening week. I was not a guy that expected this from Johnny Juzang, especially with all of the weapons that UCLA has and the added talent that they have. For him to still do what he did plus more is incredible. And I think if they are going to win a championship and go, finish what they started last year, he's going to have to play like this. He's going to have to play like this. 25 and 8 on Villanova. Obviously, every single bucket that he had mattered and helped them win. But I think Johnny Juzang thus far is the MVP, and he can continue to be the MVP as long as he continues to be the man and the go-to guy for UCLA down the stretch for them. That is my opening week awards for college basketball after week 1. I know a lot of you guys are going to have different opinions and different answers and different guys you have for awards. So please let me know in the comments who's your coach of the year, who's your rookie of the year, 6 man. Please try to put me on to some guys that you may not think I know about. Maybe there are smaller schools in your area. Maybe they're just under the radar, whatever. Please let me know your thoughts and who you have for every single award. I always read the comments. I'm always trying to find guys that are hidden gems or off of my radar. So please put me on game. As always, this is College Basketball Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug. Until next time, we out. Peace.